Hi, everyone. It's Eric Solbakken, and welcome to the Viking Academy podcast. On the podcast today, I have Denise Grams. She is an energy healer. Not only that, she's my energy healer. Yep. She's been working with me for over 5 years now, and the amount of growth and exploration that I've done with her has been off the charts. We get into a great conversation about what got her into energy healing, what the hell energy healing is for those of you who don't know what it is. We got down to the cellular memory and quantum level of what your body actually holds. We went through past life regression analysis. We talked about how the mind, body, and spirit connected together for what she does, which is basically what the Viking Academy is. We also talked about how she's seen me grow and how I've created my passion and purpose in the Viking Academy, which is what I want to share with you so that you can do the same for yourselves to live with passion and purpose. So without further ado, let's explore. Well, hello. How are you?
I'm good. And how are you?
I'm really excited, actually. You're like one of the first handful of people I get to interview. So I'm like bouncing up and down like a kid on Christmas. I like get to open up my first few presents, right? And you're one of my presents I get to open. This is great.
Oh my God. Well, I'm a bit nervous, I have to say. I'm the one that always listens. So I'm not the one that has to do all the talking all the time. So
that's true. That's true.
Yes. But it's me in a different place.
Yeah, you're the one who's telling me all the things that you found out about me and what I need to work on me. But we're going to talk about you today, and that's fun.
Fun for you.
Very much fun for you. Well, it'll be fun for both of us. And it really, and for the listeners, is the whole concept here of the Viking Academy is to be explorers. Explore yourself and figure out who you are. And, you've been, oh my gosh, you've been with me for so many years. How many has been 5 years or 5, 6?
I think it's been a little bit longer than 5 years. I didn't look that up, but it's been a little bit longer, I think, since about, maybe 17 or 18, 2018, somewhere there.
Yeah, it's been here, 2019. 2019. I just looked at my files. There you go. 2019, we started each other. So yeah, it's been 5 years. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, it's been just a beautiful exploration. And when this podcast, I wanted to have a conversation with you about, first of all, like, what do you do? How'd you get into it? And ultimately, I want to bring to the listeners here a sense of wonderment and going, there's so many facets of ourselves that we can explore and find out about. And like, for example, when I was growing up as a kid, my parents never recommended me to go to an energy healer. Like we never talked about stuff like that, never mind astrology and healing services and counseling and that sort of thing. We never talked about that. And I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it was like, there was no conversation around that. And for me, this is like a fairly new thing that I've found in my life ever since I've started my exploration and I came across you. But, tell me a little bit about your experience. Like, when did you get introduced to being an energy healer and looking at astrology and the physiology that you've done such incredible work with me on? Like, how did you get started into this?
I think it had to start with astrology. And the reason why I say that is back in 71, that's probably when you were born. I don't know.
1970, February 20th, 1970. Oh yeah. I was 1 year away from really good bell bottoms.
So you were still on the bottle and everything. So here I was, 71. And I was just going through a really hard patch. I had a 6-month-old baby and my girls were 5 and 7. And I was in the process of separating and divorcing and stuff. It was very hard. It just was one of those things that happened when, in those days, we would go to people's places for coffee. We don't do that anymore, but we'd stop in for coffee. And a girlfriend of mine brought a friend of hers one evening, and we were having coffee. And this woman, I can't remember her name. I only saw her that once. And she started talking about astrology. Now, you have to understand that my life was a mess. And I was brought up in a household where there was never any religion and hardly any sort of morals talked about. So I was pretty lost, really, at that time. So she started talking about astrology, and it occurred to me as she talked that, oh my God, there's there's something to this. I mean, there's something going on in our lives that is predictable, and, we can look at it and understand it. And I was hooked. So being hooked on astrology in 71 wasn't particularly helpful in Canada anyway, because nobody was talking about it. There was a few books. I had a hard time finding them. So I studied and studied. And anyway, that was the beginning of understanding that, there's a rhythm to our life. Our whole life is about cycles and rhythms and understanding and good times and bad times. But it was really, really important for me to know that. So time goes forward, life goes on. So by the time it gets to 91, I think, I had gone through all kinds of things and taken some psychology and sociology. I never got a degree, but I studied those things in university. And that was really interesting to me too. And from I'll go back to 1984, I was a counselor for the government, and I did that. But, the counseling, it's good if you're trying to problem solve and everything, but it never did get to the meat of stuff for me.
It's the actual cause of the problem. It's like treating the symptom instead of the cause, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And ignoring the cause. I mean, even ignoring the cause was a big thing. So we come to about 1991, and I got involved in a meditation kind of training, and this guy, he called it transforming cellular memory. And that's when I started to understand what about cellular memory? What is that? And then, I came to realize that actually, in each and every cell, there's full consciousness and memory. So that took me to several different kinds of training after that. And I can listen for you if you want.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
This is stuff that, again, when you're working with me, you're doing what you do. It would be great to understand more about this concept that each cell in your body has consciousness and memory. And so what is it specifically that you do when you're working with someone and all the training that you've taken? I mean, I understand that all the training you've taken, but now let's get to I really want for myself and the listener to kind of go, okay, well, what is it that Denise does? Like, what is energy healing? What does it really do? And so if I heard you correctly, it's like you had this life-changing situation back in 1971 that's very similar to me. I've had a marriage breakup, I've had my alcoholism, I've had these low points, and there seems to be this consistent theme among people that you have to hit this bottom first before you really start seeking.
Yeah.
So it's like pain is the touchstone of all growth. And so for you, that was like this breakup and that first introduction of astrology going, maybe there's a meaning to my life. Maybe there's an order to the universe and the chaos that I'm feeling. Maybe it's okay that I'm going through this. It's okay because it's part of the cycle, right? And then you dive into the deep end of the pool where you're starting to realize this is your unique ability. This is the thing I'm here to do. And so you dove into your schooling, but that first kind of conscious awakening of going, each cell has consciousness and memory. So with that, can you just drill into that a little bit more in terms of your energy healing and what you do? What do you do? What exactly do you do to Eric when we were having our sessions, right?
Well, for one thing, I'm using biokinesiology. I actually am testing your field. And so when I'm talking about your field, I'm talking about quantum physics, basically. And please don't ask me to even tell you what that is, because I know what it is, but I don't know how to even talk about it. So quantum physics, basically, of energy medicine, and what it says is that, we are all energy and we're all connected. So I've learned how to test by asking yes and no question, basically, and I have thousands of them, to see what it is that you want to say to me, not intellectually, not emotionally, none of that. It's just like, where's the issue? And, you and I we'll have a talk ahead of time, and we'll talk about maybe something that's come up, and I'll see if that becomes what we call an agenda, if that's what you want to deal with today. And I'll test, and I'm just testing your field, basically, is what I'm doing. And you'll say yes or no, and if it's no, then we carry on, and usually that comes in afterwards, the issue that you're dealing with. But the thing is that we have to understand that the body, it doesn't have any filters. Like at the cellular memory, there are no filters. Whereas if a person comes in to see me personally, I'm dealing with their personality, with their physical body, with all kinds of things. And I know now, after what is it, since 2020, I've been working remotely, and I can go so much deeper into, not only what the issues are, but the clearings, corrections, and balances of relieving the stress on that. Because that's really what an energy worker is doing, is relieving the stress, releasing the stress on any person, on any, whether it's their organs, endocrines, body parts, whatever, levels of their mind, conscious, subconscious.
So that's awesome. Like, I know this is what you do, but to have it kind of broken down for me, it makes way more sense, and I'm making connections with other areas.
Sure.
So it's the biokinesiology, quantum physics, energy, and connectedness. You are basically asking my body at the cellular quantum level,
Yes.
what do you need to have removed?
Yes.
And because it's not like traditional therapy when you come in and I'm talking to you and you say, okay, Eric, like Frasier, like the TV show Frasier. I love that sitcom, because, hello, Seattle, I'm listening, right? Yeah. I'm listening. And instead of asking me the questions, you're not necessarily getting to the root of the problem with me, because you're talking to the veil or the filter of my conditioned personality. So instead of seeing the Eric that's the conditioned personality, and I put up blockers and protections and walls, and I've got childhood traumas that I'm going to put walls up and protect myself. As a therapist, how do you break through those walls? You actually found a shortcut.
Yes.
Around.
Yes.
Not even around or through it. It doesn't exist anymore, because you're going straight to the cellular level.
Exactly.
And you're communicating directly with the cellular level that doesn't have the conditioning. It's like someone who can't tell, they can't lie. You ask them a question, they just tell you the truth. They just tell you exactly what's going on. So there's no filter. It's like a kid. You just ask them and they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. They haven't been conditioned yet. Like, it's just fresh. Right. And so so my cellular quantum field tells you what you need to work on. And then we go to phase 2, which is you actually do the clearing work, right?
I do. And I have techniques and sacred geometry codes and all kinds of techniques that I use to do the clearing. And I ask which ones are going to clear, which ones are the best ones to clear, or correct or balance or whatever. So I use those, I write all of those down and use them. And then I apply all the clearings and corrections. And then after I've done that, I go back through everything that we've talked about, and I make sure that everything is holding and everything is the way it should be and correct, and there are mistakes and I didn't mess up. And then I go on to the next thing to see if there's another, we call it a link. We work in links, and a link is an information, a whole package of information. And, for example, you might be heartbroken and your heart might show up, and then that might lead to your kidneys, and it might lead to, an imbalance in your kidneys, which might take us to somewhere else in the body. And, it goes all over the place. A link is it's never A to B or anything like that. It's just all over the place. And so each time I'm at a station, whether it's a heart, kidney, whatever, I'm asking to see if is there any way that I can relieve the stress on that? That's not the language I use for your purpose. I'm just saying that. So I'm asking to see, can I relieve the stress? Does it need to be relieved? And sometimes it just needs to be there to let me know that, I'm a part of this mess, whatever's going on. I'm a part of this stress package. And so I'll move on to say, I don't know, maybe it's the liver. And then the liver will tell me what it wants. And it just goes on until the body says, okay, that's enough. We're done. And we're done.
You make it sound so, it's just a matter of fact. You just ask and it tells me what it wants, and I just do what it wants, and then I leave it alone. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, how the hell do you do that? Like that, I really want to kind of get into that aspect of how did you start being able to realize you could communicate with it? But before I go to that question, the one thing that just kind of popped out into my consciousness was like, this is like permission-based healing.
Absolutely.
So you are asking my cellular level, the scarring, the pain, the blockages, everything within the body, asking it what it needs, and then it tells you, and then you heal it, which then always comes back down to that our bodies are intelligent, self-healing
Yes.
organisms. Like I remember I had a friend of mine when I had my accounting firm, and he was actually a client. He was a chiropractor, and he was explaining how important it is for your spine to be in alignment so that it doesn't pinch off the superconductor highway, which is basically your body's ability. So if you keep your spine in alignment, your spinal fluid and all the nerve endings can go out, and so your brain can coordinate and self-heal itself. He said adjusting for the alignment was helping the body self-heal itself.
Right.
So it's like it intelligently knows how to heal itself. But in this case, there's all these blockages that come along. It hasn't self-healed itself with me, if you know what I mean. Like I'm connecting you to what my friend was doing for a chiropractor. He's like, I'm realigning the body so it can self-heal itself. You are removing the blockages within my cellular, at the cellular quantum level.
And just to be clear, I mean, I am working with the body, but truly I'm working with the consciousness in the body. Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I was so excited to have you as one of my first guests, because like this is like where the mind, the body, and the spirit all kind of, it all interplays, because I have this conversation about, my emotional state, my thinking tied in with my physical body, tied in with my spiritual connect. It's all connected. And that's why I was so excited about launching the Viking Academy. It's like this exploration between these three has brought me into this convergence of understanding who I am and what I'm here to do, which is part of interviewing you, exploring and being excited about this. But it is that interlinkage. The work that you do is with the three areas, with the mind, the body, and the spirit. And it's constantly there.
All of it. Yes, absolutely.
So you had some pretty heavy, deep training to understand, and when we have our sessions, you explain in quite detail the different endocrine systems and this, and then you tie it in with the chakras, and you tie it in with past regression and going into my past lives and the emotion, releasing some emotion. I mean, there's a lot of technical work into it, but how did you intuitively know how to pick up on this? Because it's kind of like being a receiver on a radio station. Like, for me, I don't have that ability that you have right now, or at least I can't pick up the station. It would be like listening to static, or most of the listeners probably that haven't done energy healing or don't understand it would be going, I wouldn't even know how to listen to this. When was the first time you realized you could dial in and hear and be able to ask my body at the cellular, quantum, physical, spiritual level what it needs to have removed, to then apply the learning, the technical clearings that you had to learn? But how did you find out that you could actually talk? Like, you're the cellular whisperer, like, not the dog whisperer, but you're like the quantum cellular whisperer.
Yeah, it's such an interesting question, because, I first got a glimpse of that when I was in this first meditation group, this transforming cellular memory is what he called it. And what would happen is we'd go into him, and then he would start directing this and that, and people would start, coughing and doing all kinds of things. And I would, at that point, I realized that I just felt at home. My first training in actually working with energy medicine, I can't tell you, but when it's right, you don't even know. You just know it's right. It's so hard for me to explain. I fell into it, and I thought, oh my God, I'm at home. And it took me, I was like, 51 or 52 back in 91. So, I was a late bloomer in terms of finding my journey in terms of career and that kind of thing. I was very late, but I just knew, and I took to it like a duck to water, and everything that came in just was right. It just was right.
So, which leads me to the question, was it late or just on time?
It was totally on time. It was totally on time, because I had to go through whatever I went through. I had to go through that. And, and it wasn't an easy life in those days, but not since then. I've had an amazing, really.
Yeah. And that's one of the core experiences for myself is that, and that realization that everything is unfolding with divine intelligence and timing. Absolutely. Is once you get into that kind of, everything's in alignment. Like, the body knows how to heal itself. The body knows how to take care of itself. The universe knows what it's doing. And so when you're going through an incredibly difficult time, like you did back in 1971, and when I did, when I went through my crash and alcoholism, you're defeated to have that realization that oh, everything's happening the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
There's this calmness and this peace
Yes.
that falls upon you, that you realize that there's a purpose for you being here. And you know
Yes.
now that this is the reason why you went through that breakup in 1971,
Yeah. Yeah.
why you talked to that person who gave you the astrology and you went,
Yes.
oh, what's this? 1991. There was a reason why you went to the transforming cellular memory program. And then you're talking to Eric right now at the Viking Academy. And this is all just this beautiful tapestry that's unfolding itself and how you fit into it.
Yes, exactly. You know, it happens. Everything happens in life. There are, in my understanding, that there are no mistakes. I don't know. And that's, I mean, I know that's a theory. And I know if when I get into trouble with myself or whatever, or I get sick, I mean, I don't believe that for half a minute. But
no, we definitely forget it. Yeah. All spirituality goes out the window and we're pissed off with life. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I know it's been proven to me time and time and time again that basically there are no mistakes. So, you know, we're here. We have to roll with that. And those of us that don't or can't roll with that, there are no mistakes. Life is really hard and really a pain in the neck.
Yeah, that's an understatement of biblical proportions. Because
I
I know for me, like, and an interesting thing is, like, I mean, I try not to be, oh, I know all the answers here. I've got it figured out. Like we're both saying, no, I have, you know, because I'm human and I also, I don't make mistakes, but I suffer unnecessarily because because I suffer and I realize when I look back on the suffering, it's like, oh, I was suffering because my thinking was that I should suffer, as opposed to going, oh, this is just happening. Like pain can happen, but suffering's optional, right? Like pain is inevitable, but suffering's an option. I don't always see that. And it happens, right? But looking back on life, and there's this wonderful book that my business coach, Dan Sullivan, wrote, which is Everything is Created Backwards. And it's this great thinking tool that he uses, take three separate things from your past and make a new connection between them. And then take those three connections between the connections and connect them again. And what happens is you take your past and you see it fresh and you go, oh, that's why it's there. So like looking in the rear view mirror, you see things for what it is. And you've done that with me with the energy healing that we've done together. You've done multiple past life regressions with me where you've said, you know, I remember the first time you told me, I went, oh, okay, well, your body said that we needed to go and heal this. And this takes you back to when you were 2.5 years old. And this is what happened. And you were feeling abandoned by your mother and you were fearful of your father and this and this. And all of a sudden you talk me through that. And all of a sudden I have this aha moment and go, that's why I am so afraid of making a mistake. Because of this. And I have these connections and I start understanding things when I look in the past and I realized, that's why that happened. But none of it happens unless I go look for it, if I explore it, if I'm willing to be courageous enough to work with you. And that's another reason why I wanted to bring you onto the podcast, is to tell people, like, if you have never done energy healing work, please and you're at all interested, it's enlightening, it's eye-opening. You understand who you are, what your past conditioning is, and peeling, which is one of my worst phrases. I don't like hearing this one. Peeling the layers of the onion. I'm like, God, I don't like onions all that much, so I don't want to peel the onion. But ultimately, you know, you and I have been working together for 5 years, and I keep finding more.
Yes.
But it's more exciting to find out, oh, where's this new blocker that needs to get removed?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't see that blind spot. Like, as opposed to in the beginning, which was painful and judgmental and judging myself. You've made me change the way I look at myself through your healing services, is going, no, this is all part of the process, and enjoy the process, because that is your life.
And you just energetically, just as I see today, your energy is, you're very radiant and quite lovely, really. Your energy is really good. It's really out there. And I would say you've down-aged quite a bit.
Yeah. Down-aged?
Yeah.
In terms of, could you go a little deeper?
You look younger. You look younger because you look more vital, you're happier, and you look, so much younger. And the clarity, especially in the last, 6 or 8 months, your clarity, it's really blossomed. So the timing is really right for you to be doing this.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the Viking Academy. Like every time I
Oh,
talk about the
that,
Viking Academy, I'm like, you know, when you say down age, I think of like some spiritual scriptures, like be childlike in your
yes,
thought, not childish, but childlike. Like
yes,
look at the
yes.
world through the eyes of wonder and joy. And as you know, like the little babies, I love babies because you look at them and you see their eyes are wide open. They're
Yeah,
going, what the hell is this place? This is
yeah,
amazing. And I come right to them. I'm like, oh, isn't this so much fun? Welcome to Earth, right? And the
I
parents are kind of
know,
looking at me a little funny,
I
but I'm
know,
like looking at the kids going, welcome to Earth. You're going to have so
I
much
know.
fun down here. Like,
I do that too, and it's really I can't help myself. I have to do that with babies now. It's just crazy.
yeah, yeah,
It's so much fun because they just respond. You know, it's like
yeah,
this thing.
yeah. And that to me, I love that down aging is that I'm feeling younger and more energy, more vibrant as a result of exploring these three dimensions of myself, like
Yeah,
exploring my body and finding out what works with it and what ticks, exploring my mind and my thinking and finding out what works and how it ticks, and exploring my spiritual connection.
and as a result, you are showing up. Like you are showing up in terms of look at you.
Which is what I want for others. Like
Well, of course.
that's I don't want to hold on to this. I want to give it away.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, it's so amazing. And so, you know, I wrote this note down. You know, we went through COVID and then everybody had to stay home and we couldn't see each other in place. So then everybody started going online and using Zoom. But you made a mention that Zoom is actually was your friend because it helps you actually avoid the personality, the conditioned personality. So you can go straight to the source and get to the root cause of the body needs.
You know, that was really interesting because when COVID hit, I thought, okay, well, I guess that's the end of that. And I won't be working and oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then I have worked internationally with a few people on and off. And I thought, I'll just put it out there and see what people want. Well, God, they all just came in. I mean, I was busier during COVID than ever. I mean, actually, everything just really took off. So it was, in that sense, it was a blessing for me.
Yeah. And I mean, for the listeners here, like Denise lives across the pond from me. I'm in Victoria. You're on the West Shore. You're in Vancouver. And I've only seen you once in person.
Only once, yeah.
I came and saw you the first time. I took the ferry across. I wanted to meet you. We sat in person.
Right.
We did the first session there.
That's right.
And after that, we've been doing 5 years of Zoom calls.
That's right. We have.
You know, and well, it's not Zoom, but it's just FaceTime, whatever. It's the remote. That's the other thing that I find so exciting is the fact that you're dealing at the level of the cellular level and the memory and the cellular level, but it's the quantum field because there's no distance required. You're X amount of kilometers or miles away from me, but it makes no difference because once you can hone in on my signature and you're like, okay, I'm working with Eric, you then tap into that without the personality of Eric in the way for you to do your work. So, literally, I've heard people say that just get out of your own way. Like literally, I knew I need to get out of Denise's way so she can do the work on me because, and I sometimes jokingly say to people, who you are is screaming so loudly. I can't hear a word you're saying. Right. And so for you, it's very literal. Like, it's like, no, Eric, just stop talking and let me get to work. Like, let me go in there and do the work I need to do.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. This is fantastic. I see us doing many more podcasts because we didn't even get into any of the kind of the details of some of the specific clearings, which is what I would like to get into and say, like how does astrology tie in with the clearing that you have and the types of clearings and the regression analysis? And just for shits and giggles, can you explain a little bit more? Because I mentioned it before that you took me to a past life regression. Can you just expand on that one a little bit so we can talk about that? Because I want the listeners to understand what I meant by that and what you do through that process and how it helps me. Right.
Okay. So let's say that something is going on for you, doesn't matter what it is. And I start to, I get all the information around that I can. And then it's time for me to start doing, applying my clearings, corrections, and balances. So just a bunch of different ways that I work. And when trauma comes up and I'm when I do a correction on trauma, I'm clearing past trauma and present trauma. Like it rolls out like a domino effect. So that's good. But when that comes up, I have found, and I was taught this actually by a really smart woman, that, if you can go to the minutiae, if you can get to the details of like where we are, what happened, when, all of that, what were you feeling, what were you thinking, and where in your body was it located, that kind of thing. So when I can do that, I can get more information, and the chance of this clearing is so much better. So anyway, when I come to, say, trauma, then the first thing I'll ask is, I'm asking if I need to defrag that. Now, that's just a term we use. And that just means, do I need to take this apart and go deeper into it? So then I will look at, okay, so what's the scope of this thing? And I want some general information around, I want the parameters. I just, it's just general information around this trauma. And then I want the time frame. Now, time frame, it can be a past life, often is a past life. I think we've come up with past lives for you. Past life, it can be a life off planet. It can definitely be that. There's often many of those. Or it can be childhood. Or it can be something in your 20s or 30s, wherever it is. But I find the time only by testing. And sometimes I have to work with that for quite a while. Sometimes it won't give it to me right away. Like sometimes I have to work through, like, is it 20, 21, 22? I have to test each one. So it's a good thing that I don't, like, this isn't work for me. It's not our work. I'm like a detective. I just want to get the exact piece there. So when I get the time frame, then I want to see any information that I can get around that time. Like you said, your mother and your father and this kind of thing. Once I've got that, then I see if I can do any corrections, clearings, and balances on that piece there, that piece of information. And always there is. And so then I go ahead and I keep correcting. And then it tells me when I've finished with all of the corrections and the defrag is over. And then I carry on with the rest of the session.
Dad, it very much helps. So back at the beginning of the conversation, it was treating the cause, not the symptom. And so when we think about treating the cause of, say, a trauma that I'm still carrying with me today in the present moment.
Yeah.
And so at the cellular level and the quantum level, it knows that. It'll disclose it to you freely because, the personality of Eric isn't in the way. And so you go to that and it says, yep, there's some trauma that he's carrying and it's here. And you go, okay, I'm going to go treat the cause, but the root cause may not be, and inevitably it doesn't feel like it's in this lifetime or it's been reinforced in this lifetime. So what's happened at 2.5 years old, you said, there's the thing. And then I have this, this aha moment, but you've also gone beyond that and said, actually, it was in a past life in like the mid, I don't know, I can't remember, a couple of the dates was like or something like that. And I was a native boy. And this is what happened, which is consistent with the trauma that happened when I was a 2-year-old, which is, so it's it's a pattern that's repeating itself in previous lifetimes. And it's getting to the root cause that is a repeating pattern. And so then we have this pattern that repeats, and not only within this life, but in previous lives, and it just keeps carrying forward. So it's like treating that cause so that it doesn't repeat itself going forward. And I can't remember if I've had any like off planet or different.
I can't remember.
I can't recall.
Once I finished the session, like I just don't even hold on to any of it because I don't even know. That's why I write stuff down, because I don't know. I'm in the zone when I'm, working.
That's why I love why you record it and you send me the recording. Yes. And so then I can go back, and maybe I'm going to need to do that, go back in the recordings and see exactly what that is. But the beautiful part on the work that you do, and I want the listeners to understand this, is that I don't have to do anything more than what I just did with you. Like by engaging with you and having the energy work and you going back and finding the root cause and doing all the technical clearings that you know how to do, that is the work for me. And that is the work. And so once that's cleared, I feel a little breathe. Like I remember one of the first sessions you did on me remotely, I had this cascade of light in my eyes, and I got on the call with you afterwards. So first of all, just for the listeners, you have a first call with you, kind of tell you what's going on in my life. You get a little bit of the personality of Eric, and then say, okay, now I'm going to go in and check this out. I then be still. And one of the things I do is I don't look at the TV. I'm not watching screens. I go lie down and relax. You can go for a walk if you want to, you say, but normally I lie down and I tend to fall asleep because that's what I do. I'm lie down, relax, fall asleep, because then really the personality of Eric can't get in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I remember kind of coming to, and then all of a sudden this big sheet of light flashing over my eyes. And I was like, whoa. And then you follow up with the call back to me and say, okay, this is what we did. This is what we found. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing, because what you just said you did on me, I felt it physically, but there's nothing for me to do homework wise, so to speak, going forward. That is the hard work. So it's lovely because I get to outsource the hard work to you, because I haven't been able to figure out my cellular memory and that experience and do that. Oh, actually, that brings me to another point. Can you see it in yourself? Can you do energy work to yourself? Can you talk to your own cellular memory?
Oh yeah. I often, there are times, not often, but sometimes I'll pick up energy from people, and that doesn't feel very good, as you know, probably. And I'll correct that. But every time before I start a session, I do a ritual of clearing and, just calling in any help that we can get to make this happen, So I have an energy worker has to maintain that clarity, or they're not going to go anywhere. There have been times, the odd time, I'm rushed or whatever, and I go in to do the session and I'm shortcutting. I just have to laugh at myself because I can't do anything. So I have to take 5 minutes, clear, breathe, whatever. Or I've had a phone call just before I go in, and start. And, you just have to be clear. So, my lifestyle, like I live alone, and my lifestyle is really cohesive to this work that I do. If I had a family and all that, it wouldn't be as easy, I don't think, for me, because I don't think it would be as easy. I have a tendency to, look after people and everything, and my family and everything. I don't think I can do that.
So it's almost, you need to clear the channel, clear the energies for yourself so that you can listen. You're being a divining rod for the person you're working with is saying, okay, but you need to be clear so there's no other energies that are getting in your way, so that you can pick up the energy sequences and then go, okay, now what do I need to do? But you're like reading the instruction manual, really, when you think about it. You're asking, you just need to know how to ask, what questions to ask. Then my cellular memory at the quantum level tells you what to do and what it needs clearing for. And you say, oh, do you need this clearing? Yes, no. This one? Yeah. No. Okay, I'll do that one first. Okay, do you need this one? Yeah or no? And then you do that one. And so it's that infinite knowledge like this. I kind of laugh sometimes when I hear people saying, oh, there is no God, there is no creator, there's no nothing. And I'm like, really? There's an incredibly intricate intelligence in the universe, and it permutates your body, your mind, your spirit, everything. It's connected to everything. It's like almost laughable to hear someone say, oh, there isn't. It's like kind of right there. So you're connecting with all of that.
And I never start with anybody. And even though we worked for 5 years and we talked and everything, you and I, and Aaron and everybody, but I don't ever go in with any preconceived notion about what you're dealing with. And that's the thing about, the top counseling or that kind of thing. Counseling is that the counselor is supposed to be figuring all this out, is figuring out the person's issues so they can tell them what they're supposed to do. And I found that really hard work. It was just terrible.
I have a hard enough time trying to figure myself out, never mind trying to tell somebody else what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was, the fact that this work, all I have to do is be a clear channel for you to tell me what you want, basically. And I have to know the questions to ask. That's it.
That's so cool. Because for you, now you've found your purpose, and clearly you're passionate about it because you're in alignment with what you're here to do. You see your past life of all the experiences you've had is bringing you to where you are today, and you're loving what you're doing, and you're fitting into the universe's plan for you, so to speak. You're fit into that, and it's almost playful what you do. It's play, it's not hard work. Or you said it's hard work if you're trying to figure it out or think of it too much, but if you let it happen, it becomes playful.
It is, it really is a privilege to be able to work at this level. I just feel so privileged to be able to do this. And you're right. I never see this as work. It is not that it's not intense and it takes energy, but it's not work, and certainly isn't artwork. It's beautiful. Like today, I have this lovely session with this woman. She's been working through a really, really hard time. She's just blossoming, and it's just so beautiful when I'm asking the questions that need to be asked. And she's arriving at a higher level of consciousness than she's ever been. Honestly, it is so exciting. It's just so exciting, you know?
Well, I am infinitely and completely grateful for the work that we do together. It's been fantastic. And I'm excited about the future and doing more exploring. That for me, it's more exploring. It's like, ooh, let's find out what's next. What's the other thing that needs to get out of the way? And to be able to integrate that in with the Viking Academy, that spirit of exploration, exploring yourself so that you can find out who you are and why you're here and what your purpose is, right? And so again, I see many more podcasts in the future, but for now, I will be showing what is the easiest way for people to find. For those of you that have not done energy healing, I highly recommend it. Doesn't matter where your location is, as we've just talked about. Zoom is your friend. And not only that, it's going to help you, your personality, not get in the way of Denise's work. Where could they find you to be able to work with you?
Okay. Well, they can go to denisegrams.com. That's my website. And they can read all about the energy work there. And there's a few other things to get. I've got astrology on there. I've got a few things on that website. Yeah. My phone number is 778-340-6129. Or if you want to email me, I am at bodytalkvancouver@telus.net. Love to hear from you.
Fantastic. All right. Well, there you go. Let's end the podcast there. And again, I look forward to our next session and our next podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Viking Academy podcast. Make sure to leave us your honest feedback by leaving a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.